What is up, everybody? It is Austin here, and today we are going to discuss the coronary vasculature, and that's going to include our coronary arteries and our cardiac veins. So let's dive right in. The coronary arteries. So we're going to start with that. We have two main ones, the left coronary artery and the right coronary artery. They both arise off this ascending aorta. Here's the aortic arch, ascending aorta. So the right coronary artery will arise off the ascending aorta, running anteriorly down the heart, and the left coronary artery will come off the back of the ascending aorta and run off anteriorly down the heart. Now the branches of these, so the RCA, or the right coronary artery, will give off an atrial branch, which I did not show. We'll give off a right marginal branch, which is down here. Remember how people used to say, like, draw within the margins or within the lines? Well, that's, it's like within the margins of this heart kind of, so that's how I'm going to remember. It's like right marginal branch is down there. And then the posterior interventricular branch, which is also known as the posterior descending artery. And this runs posterior, so that's why I have this dotted. And it kind of, you can see how this right coronary comes off anterior, so it's in the front of the heart. And then it gives off a branch that goes back in the back of the heart. And that's what we see here. So the left coronary artery is going to give off a LAD, the left, well, let's see, the anterior interventricular branch, or the left anterior descending artery. And that's similar to this one down here. Now this is a bad place to have like a myocardial infarction because it supplies a lot of the heart. Now there's going to be two branches. That's one of the branches off the LCA. The other one is the circumflex branch. And we can see that up here. And that will give off a branch called the left marginal branch, and that will run posterior behind the heart. So three branches really for each. But the left marginal branch comes off of a branch of the LCA, while the right marginal branch comes directly off of the right coronary RCA. Now, what do these supply? So the RCA is going to supply our SA node, sinoatrial node, atrioventricular node. That makes sense. I mean, they're in this region. The right atrium, which makes sense, and the posterior interventricular septum. The LCA is going to supply our left atrium. Makes sense. Our left ventricle. Again, I have left ventricle here, right ventricle here. Our AV bundle and AV nodes sometimes, and anterior interventricular septum. So let's move on to our cardiac veins now. So here I have highlighted our superior vena cava, our pulmonary trunk. We also have an inferior vena cava down here. Both will drain into this right atrium. And these veins, so there's 5 of them we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about, first off, this coronary sinus, this big long blue thing going across here. So this is basically collecting all the blood flow from these other cardiac veins. It's basically all these other veins are draining into the coronary sinus. The great cardiac vein will run off of this over here. And the next one is middle cardiac vein. This one's going to be right here. So the middle cardiac vein is going to be posterior, so that's why we have it drawn like that. It's going to be behind the heart. This is anterior. And then we have the small cardiac vein. So we're going to talk about these in relationships to the arteries as well. See, it has the small cardiac vein will run with the right marginal branch of RCA, and that we saw right here. So they'll run together. So, good association to have. So we talked about great cardiac vein, middle cardiac vein, small cardiac vein, coronary sinus, and the anterior cardiac veins. These will drain blood from the right ventricle directly back to the right atrium. I think. Yeah, it's either going that way or the other way. Let me check my, yeah, it drains into the right atrium. And I'm not sure what happens from there because I know blood's going back this way to go into the pulmonary trunk to get oxygenated. So I'll have to figure that out. But anyways, that's what's going on. And that's all for the cardiac veins. Now for these like little correlations here, we have the right marginal branch and the small cardiac vein running together, as we see here. We also have the left anterior descending artery, or the anterior interventricular artery or branch of the left coronary, running with the great cardiac vein. So this is running with this. And this is running in the IV groove, right? It's running in the anterior interventricular groove. And that's pretty much it. Our right coronary artery is usually dominant in 67% of cases. And that gives rise to our posterior anterior descent. What is that? Posterior interventricular branch, which is this one. So for some reason I wrote PAD, it's not, it's PDA. Well, whatever. It's the posterior descending artery, or the posterior interventricular branch. It usually arises from RCA, as we see all here. 15% or so people, it will arise from the left coronary artery. Now, myocardial infarctions, the LAD is affected in 40 to 50% of patients, so that's most commonly affected. RCA is next commonly affected. Then circumflex off the LCA is finally the third most commonly affected. So basically we're going LAD, RCA, and circumflex branch is going to be that next one. So that's the main places where a heart attack will occur, or blockage in the arteries. And then you'll get the lack of oxygen to the muscle myocardium in the heart, causing ischemia. Anyways, that is the end of this video. That took a little bit longer than I thought, but yeah, that's it, y'all. Hope you have a great week. We're out.